Hi everyone, welcome to my video for the final day, day 4 of the Cheltenham Festival 2016. Apologies for the camera angle again, I'm still on this tablet. We had a great day on this channel yesterday, Any Currency being the highlight, 11-1 winner of the cross country. For good measure as well, we also threw in Diego de Charmille. I think it went off at 6.5-1 in the end, and obviously Sprinter Sacre. As you know, I've said in the last few days, I was actually down there yesterday, and it was honestly one of the best days I've ever had in my life, I would say. Spent the morning with Any Currency at his stable. If anyone follows me on Twitter, at the Yoz, THEYOZ81, I've got all the photos with me there. Spent the morning with the Keithley team down there at the yard, and they were really, really confident on it. And then to actually be on course to shout him home as well, it was a really special moment. People who watch this know I love the horse. 4 years in a row I've tipped him up on this channel. So when he came home, it was just amazing. And it was the same with Sprinter Sacre. It was quite bizarre, actually, because I think in the place where we were, I think we were surrounded by about 1,000 people from Ireland who were all on Undersur. So no, there was it was quite a strange experience, shouting home Sprinter Sacre amongst all of that. So no, great day all round. But day 4 is what it's about today, and that kicks off with the always hard Triumph Hurdle. The favourite for a while now has been Ivanovic Gorbatov, largely I think because he cost an absolute fortune. But he flopped badly on heavy ground on his latest, but all the vibes of him from the yard know he's still good. He's still got everything about him. He's going to keep growing into his frame. He's going to get better as he goes on, and that could very well be the case. His best flat form as well is on good going, so you can't rule this one out just yet, but at like 3-1, 11-4, yeah, he could win. But I want something a bit better than that, who's actually proven more than he has. So Royale for the Alan King yard's interesting. He's a course and distance winner. He's had 5 runs now, which means he's battle hardened, and I like that for the Triumph because it's not the likes. It's been won in the past by the likes of Catchets, etc., and stuff like that, who know how to get into a fight. They're not like lightly raced horses, so that really is a positive for So Royale for me. The slight worry I have on this is all of his main form is on softer and heavy ground, and the flat breeding he's got is for flat horses with more dig in the ground as well, so that's the thing kind of put me off. Apple's Jade's in here for Willie Mullins, which is interesting. He's unbeaten. He won a Grade 2 on the latest. Obviously, it's from the Mullins yard. The worry again, though, everything is on soft ground, nothing on good ground. I'm not saying he won't, but you've got to have a real big leap of faith that he'll go on the ground. The main two I'm focusing on amongst these lot at the moment is the 2 Nichols horses. There's Connectable who's in there, and he actually beat Raven Black last time, so that's actually almost like a novice beating a non-novice, so that's an interesting piece of form. The time before that, he came 4th behind Gibralfaro, but he should really turned the form on him there. He wasn't beaten that far, but this was this one's first run in England, and Gibralfaro has been going for a while. But he's also flopped since then last time out. So while the Connectable should run a decent race, and Nichols won the hurdle race, the Fred Winter, yesterday with Diego de Charmille, I just think Connectable and Gibralfaro is both just a bit short of what's needed. My idea of the winner here is, and I'm kind of going against my own lesson here, is Zubaya for Paul Nichols again. He won a Group 2 on his debut on good ground. He got on so well with Nick Schofield as well, and that was a big thing that Paul Nichols said after the race. Nick Schofield rode him, he rides him at home, and they just get on like a house on fire. He's got that classy element with a Group 2, and while he might not necessarily battle hardened, we don't know how good he is again. It's another one of those Paul Nichols brought over from France, and he could be anything, and I don't know if this is necessarily a vintage renewal, so I think Zubaya at around 6-1 is a very, very good price. Competitive as always, but 1, 2, 3 is Zubaya from, I'm going to put in So Royale, taking a chance he likes the ground, and Ivanovic Gorbatov. The county hurdle is always a complete nightmare because of the number of horses declared again. One I did fancy in this was DeSoto County, but unfortunately that's now been taken out, so we had to go back to the drawing board. However, the next one I'm coming down to is a horse who runs in the same colours, and that is Starchitect. He's only had 1 run this year, and he came 2nd in the Betfair hurdle. Blazed off in front, got overtaken but carried on a long way off the winner, but they were spread out like washing behind. The one thing I would point out for day 3 and 4, I think I said it yesterday, it suits front runners because they use the new course, so the bends on it are a lot tighter, especially coming into the straight. So Starkitect, off a decent mark, is the type that could split the field. However, the flip side is, County Hurdle could be 12 front runners and it won't suit him. The one thing he does have, though, like in the Betfair, he's got big field experience. Some of these are like, oh yeah, they're great, but they've been winning 5 and 6 horse races. They come out and it's like, didn't like the big field at this stage. But Starkitec's been there and done it, and I think, on good ground as well, he can go a good pace, he can get into a good rhythm and must have a great chance. Stern Rubin's an interesting one for Philip Hobbs. Looked progressive all the time until the latest when he just, something didn't seem right. I'm not having that it's the ground. I just don't know. I can't put my finger on it. He's a player if he bounces back, but having a run that bad, that close to the festival, it kind of puts me off a bit, to be honest. Blue Hell is very interesting because last time out he absolutely smashed Diamond King, and Diamond King went and won the Coral yesterday quite easily. The one I fancied, Longhouse Hall, came in second at a decent price. He's won on good ground, so on collateral form, you would say that Blue Hell has got every chance if that form of Diamond King is proven to be good, which I think it might be. The reason I'm not putting him as my number one pick is because he's a big hold-up horse and he comes through late. And big fields, I kind of like being up there, to be honest with you, but we'll wait and see. Great field for the McManus colours for Willie Mullins. Was really, really impressive on his UK debut. Now, he hasn't had a great deal of experience for going for a race such as the County, but he could be absolutely thrown in because he could be literally anything. And again, the reason he's not my number one pick is because he hasn't necessarily been through the big fields and we just don't know how good he is, basically. As always, it's another tough race, the County, but 1, 2, 3 I'm going for is Starkitect from Blue Hell and Greatfield. Third up is always a great race. It's the Albert Bartlett, and the horse that this one's been about all winter has been Barter's Hill, for Ben Paulin and David Bass on board. He's probably the toughest horse in training, this one. He does what he says on the tin. He goes up, he runs, and if anything comes, he seems to find more. You think 3 out he's beaten, and he'll just keep finding a bit more. A bit like Eddie Currency yesterday. 3 out, you would have thought, nah, they're going to swamp him now, and he just kept finding. This one is very similar. He goes from the front, which again is what I like. He just seems to have bags of stamina over 2.5 mile. He'll keep finding, and I think this hill with the 3 mile is exactly what he's after. He's unbeaten. He's never lost. He's got the form in the book, so it's a real hard horse to oppose, Barter's Hill. But he probably hasn't taken on horses as classy as what they've got here. Gangster for Willie Mullins was a Group 3 winner on his latest. Ground seems okay. Whether that form's as strong as Barter's Hill, I don't know, but on face of it, got a great chance. Again, another Mullins horse is Bleu et Rouge. The interesting one with this one last time, he outstayed Tombstone over 2.5 mile, or just over 2 mile 2, I think it was. And Tombstone stayed on like anything on the first race in the Supreme to come fourth in that. And that race that he beat him in was a Group 1. The thing is on this, again, all of it's been on soft. So you think at 2.5 miles soft, 3 mile on good, it should work if he can perform on the good ground. But you couldn't put anyone off Bleu et Rouge. Same with another Mullins horse. He's completely dominating like he does in most of it. Long Dog. He's improving. He does well without being spectacular, I would say. But breeding suggests that he'd need the 3 mile, but it only suggests that he needs the 3 mile. I always thought with this one he would have been a really good one for the Neptune. Clearly, Mullins didn't need it yesterday when York Hill won. But, he should run a good race. Shanty Village is interesting. He's a course and distance winner without being course and distance together. He holds another horse easily who's in this field called Champers on Ice. The ground is fine, and do you know what? He must have a huge chance. He loves it round the course. He keeps on improving. The one thing we don't know about this one, he seems to do it effortlessly. He gets the lead, goes, idles a bit, and then that's the way it works. If he gets into a fight with Barter's Hill, which this is likely to turn into, because Barter's Hill doesn't know how to win easy, everything has to turn into a slugfest. What will he have? Now, the horse I do want to mention here is because it was another horse I actually met at the Keithley Yard yesterday, and that is Solstice Star. He actually came second in the Imperial Cup at 20 to 1. at the weekend. It was a great run, bearing in mind he had won, I think it was 5 on the bounce, including 2 round this course. And then there was a load of front runners. He was getting taken on constantly for it, and all the others broke the front runners apart from him. And he only gave way late on by 4 lengths to a horse he was given over a stone and a half to. Now, I saw him yesterday at the yard. He was bucking, his head was over the side, he was absolutely bouncing. I had a word with Belinda Keithley as well, who's the trainer's wife, and she said he's been absolutely on fire in the mornings. He's bucking and wanting to go to work and everything. So the chances are they're going to throw him into this Albert Bartlett. Now, on paper, everything he's done is over 2.5 mile. But he's a better horse on better ground, and they seem to think he'd have no problem staying 3 mile. It's a big step up in trip, don't get me wrong, and it's a big step up in class for him, bearing in mind a lot of what he was doing was in handicaps. But seeing how well the horse looked yesterday, he's a lovely looking horse as well, with his blinkers on even in the box. I'm gonna have to put Solstice Star in my 1, 2, 3. I don't know. I think I know the target. The stable wanted the Martin Pipe Hurdle because he would have been £6 well in, but that's not to say that he won't run well here. So it might be being a bit sentimental, but it's 50-1 Solstice Star, and looking at how he worked yesterday and actually being able to see that up close, I've got to put him in with 1, 2, 3. It's a great race, so I'm going for Barter's Hill to beat Shantou Village with Solstice Star to make up the top 3. The next one is the big one, often considered the highlight of the week, and that is obviously this year the Timico Gold Cup. My number one pick, and you'll know that I said it last year, and I've said it on my videos before entry and stuff, and people who follow this know that I've had him anti-post for a while at 12-1, and he's now 3-1, and that is Don Cossack for Gordon Elliott. He is a real class horse who comes to life in the spring. People talk about his Ryanair defeat last year. I don't care what anyone says, it was a poor ride. He got too far back. Why he had him that far back when he was more of a stamina horse, I don't know. He then, Brian Cooper then went for a run between horses, which why he went for it when there was no need, I don't know. Everything went wrong for him. So I know people have got the course concerns, which you can understand, but I don't have them. He then went to Aintree and absolutely slammed Q Card by 20 lengths. And if it wasn't for a fall in the King George, I honestly think, and I've watched the race twice this morning, I honestly think he would have won the King George as well, given the nature he was staying on. And if that was the case, he'd be 2-1 now, and that's the weirdest thing about it. Last time out, they were like, oh, that wasn't impressive, over 2.5 mile. Yeah, he came off the bridle, but he came back on the bridle and pulled away from Wounded Warrior, who came second in the RSA last year, so it's not bad form. Brian Cooper's actually picked it. I kind of wish he wasn't, to be honest with you, because his best runs have been when Brian Cooper's not on it. Nothing against Brian, but it was when the Champ AP was on it at April last year, or when Davy Russell was on it in the past. So, yeah, I kind of wish he wasn't, because maybe he just doesn't get on with it. But I think this horse is all class. The ground's come for it. He stays well, and I think Don Cossack's the one. You can't take anything away from Q Card this season. 2 for 2. He won the Betfair Chase at Haydock, down the road from me. He then won the King George, and now he's on for the £1 million bonus if he wins this. The Epiglottis operation seems to be the making of him, what he's done. He's now seeing out his race as well. But will he ultimately see out 3 mile 2 up a hill? I think he will, bearing in mind he needed every single yard of the King George trip to win that. The only worry I do have there is they've taken Vator out of their one now because they're thinking maybe he's not necessarily an out-and-out stayer. I don't really know the full reasoning behind it. But then I suppose you could argue that, he had to be ridden all out to get that full trip. I think the difference is with Don Cossack, he needed further. That's why he was under pressure, because it's a fast course, Kempton, but Q Card needed every inch of that one. Don Polly's a good horse. Nothing wrong. I actually saw him in the flesh at Aintree in December, where he wasn't visually brilliant, to be honest with you. Getting weight off Many Clouds, and he only ground him down late on, but it was his first run. Many Clouds has obviously won the big chase, the Premier Chase up at Kelso since. I just think on good ground, it's not going to turn into a slogfest for him, and that's what he needs. Jack Adam got placed last year for the Mullins Yard, but I've watched that fall on trials day, and that was a sickening fall that he took. He absolutely blundered the fence, went over on his front. He had all of his front stitched afterwards. In championship races, I'm not a huge fan of a horse that's fallen there, and I think he's fallen a couple of times at the course now, and that always worries me. One you've got to mention, because again he's suddenly getting a new lease of life in the twilight of his career, and that is Smad Place. He's a course and distance winner. He's in the form of his career. The ground is fine. The only reason I think is he came fourth in the King George, and therefore I think he's comfortably held by Q Card and Don Cossack on that form. Even though Don Cossack fell, he had him beaten, and Q Card had him beaten. But I'm taking a punt here that the best line of form for this Gold Cup is that King George. I'm putting that down as the bigger trial over, say, the Lexus which Don Poley won. So from 1, 2, 3 in the Gold Cup, I'm going for Don Cossack from Q Card and Smad Place. Fox Hunter Chase, always difficult with the amateur riders, but it's got a lot more attention this year due to Victoria Pendleton, the former cyclist, riding Pasha de Polder for Paul Nicholls. There's been a lot of debate on whether she should ride in this or not, and I've got to be honest, I completely agree with her riding. Why not? Just because she rode a bike or whatever it was, or whatever she did before. She's applied herself, she's gone through training, she's picked up point-to-point rides. Of course she's going to make mistakes. Amateurs make mistakes, it's what happened. But you know what? She fell, and it was a mistake, don't get me wrong, from Pasha de Polder. She wasn't strong enough, but she bounced back 10 days later and won. And my take on it is absolutely, why not? Why shouldn't you let them do it? At Sandown, you have those like the military riders. They don't ride all year, but they get the chance to do it. So I just honestly don't see what the big thing is here. As for Pasha de Polder, I think he's got a good each-way chance. He's in form. He's front-run the last couple of times. The ground is fine. He's won up to 2 mile 5, 2 mile 6, so 3 mile and a bit. Should stay. The only worry I have is, and this is the novice part of it, will Victoria Pendleton be able to judge the fractions if he does decide to go up top? Bearing in mind, she's never ridden in a race this big before. My idea of the winner, though, is last year's winner, and I think he's a great price at 11-4, and that is On the Fringe. He easily won this last year. He's a class horse. He went on to Aintree and did all sorts there. He got beat on his comeback run this time, but if you actually look back through his whole career, he gets hammered on his comeback run. He clearly needs it. Nina Carberry's up. And 11-4, I think On the Fringe will take all the beating if he's got even 80% of what he had last year. Paint the Clouds was favourite last year, but obviously got beaten. But he's in great form this year. He won tidily. I actually did it last time out at Doncaster. It was a short price, but I thought it was a good priced short price, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's just, I think he should have been like 1-4 and he was 4-6. And I thought, well, even though his odds on, he's worth a punt. Though on form, he is held by Paint the Clouds. Interesting one for you today. I hope you're going to watch it sooner than later. Pearly Steps was a horse that's been placed in this Fox Hunter before. And the interesting one is he's not been declared for this, but he's running today in a Hunter Chase, I think at Toaster, and he's even money. Go and back him, because they were really seriously considering the festival and they're not going there to go for some egg and spoon race at Toaster, and I can't believe it's even money, to be honest with you. So maybe have a punt on Pearly Steps today. Mendip Express is a course and distance winner. He's also in form and must have a great chance. He's 20-1 because he hasn't been taken on this quality of opposition, but I can certainly see him making the frame. As for my 1, 2, 3, I'm looking for On the Fringe to beat Paint the Clouds and Mendip Express. The Martin Pipe Conditional Jockey's Hurdle is a race I don't really massively get involved in at the festival, to be honest, because it's a nightmare at times, to be honest. The one I'm looking at here, the main one, is Squatter, Gordon Elliott. He's improving all the time, and the Gordon Elliott handicappers have been on fire this week. He's moving well, he's on good ground, he seems to stay the trip, he's got a good conditional on it, as good as a conditional can be, and he must have a great chance. Qualando's interesting for Paul Nicholls because he loves the course. He's on a good mark, he's won at the festival before, and he goes well fresh. He's also got Harry Cobden on it, who's a £3 claimer, so he's possibly as good a conditional as you'll get as well. He's around 10-1, and I think that's a good each way price as well. Ones you've got to mention as well is Work in Progress for the Skeltons. He's in form, he's on a good mark, but this is a big step up in class even in an amateur level, so he might get found out. Mondragon is in place. He actually got placed last time behind Different Gravy, which I think is quite a nice run, and he's on a decent mark, but he was a long way behind him, so while he was placed, he was still well out of it, and I just don't know if a big field like this will necessarily see him to his strengths. Labelled as Oboe is consistent, but he doesn't win very often, and he's probably below top class, if we're being honest. And Jetstream Jack, another one for Gordon Elliott's interesting. He's in form, he's versatile with regards to the trip. He's won over from 2 mile to 3 mile on a nice mark, but everything he does of real significance seems to be on heavy ground, not good ground, so that's a worry. If you're looking for an each way shout, have a look at Tully East. He got absolutely beaten out of sight in Group 1 and Group 3 level. I don't know why they put him in there, to be honest with you. He's clearly not that. But when he's dropped back to this level, he wins or runs really good races. Now, the interesting part about it is because he gets such bad hammerings when he goes out out of this level to the graded divisions, his mark is actually really low. Shane Shortle, I think, is the jockey on it as well, who's a good young jockey, and he's 20-1, and I think that's not a bad bet. He'll have to prove himself in the big field, don't get me wrong, but the ground seems to be okay for him. And this is more or less his level, maybe a bit higher, but he should run a decent race. Difficult as always, this, but my 1, 2, 3 I'm going for is Squitter, Qualando, and Tully East I'm going to have to put in. And then the final race to close the festival is always another nightmare, and that is the Johnny Henderson Grand Annual. The horse I actually quite liking this year. Though I've set up like horses in it in the past and they've done nothing. It's just a bit of a nightmare and that. But I do like Rock the World for Jessie Harrington, or Mrs. John Harrington as she's now known. He's a course and distance winner last time. Okay, it was only a 3-horse race, but what got me is he jumped so well all the way round. They put him away after that because if you just go on the Racing Post, click on wins, everything's on good ground. He needs good ground. He goes well fresh as well. So he hasn't run since I think it was October, November. He goes well fresh. He's got his good ground. He's a course and distance winner. He's on a good mark and he's 12-1. And for me, I'm not saying he'll necessarily win. I think that's a good bet. If you're looking for a bet in it, I think it's a good bet. Pearl's Legend is a course and distance runner who's run other good races at the course, but I suspect he needs soft and heavy ground to be really at the races. Savello is a previous winner of this race in 2014. However, he hasn't been in the same form since, but he's £4 higher now. But the reason he's still £4 higher is he's not in the same form going into it as last time, but he is generally consistent. So if he can come back to anything like his form, Savello would have a chance. It's the same with Next Sensation. He won this last year from the front. He was 4th the year before. It's interesting because he only seems to run well at the festival. He seems to be crap, to be honest with you, the rest of the year. But for that reason, his mark is quite good because he wins one, gets battered about 6 times, and then goes back again and on a half-decent mark. I just worry, though, because this year he's been really bad, and I just worry about that, to be honest with you, just how bad he's been. Because there's a difference between being bad and being bad. And that's what this one has been this year. The St. James is interesting because if you look at his form for the last 3 years, he's a definite spring horse. He comes to life in the spring. That's when he seems to run his best races. He would have gone really close at Kempton in the latest, but for falling 3 out. There was 2 things on that. The annoying thing, 1, he had jumped brilliant up to that point, and 2, Barry Geraghty got it badly wrong, I think. The favourite had fallen, another one had fallen. There was a lot of mistakes, and the horse in the front, something Cove, I can't remember what it was called, was jumping left. And Barry Geraghty, coming off the bend at Kempton, decided to try and run between 2 horses, which was a really stupid move, I think. And the horse picked up, but the fence was, and he just went. It wasn't a bad fall. It was a novice-y fall, to be honest with you. But he's got a low weight, and if he's recovered from that, I think he's got a big chance, 16-1. Croco Bay I tipped up last year and he got placed. He's £1 lower than when he got placed, but he's been in absolutely no form this season and would have to bounce back. Velvet Maker is an interesting one because he's finished 3 times behind Duvan, twice over fences, once over hurdles. He has won when he's been in this lower mark, but I think the fact is this one's in it like favourite pretty much along with Next Sensation, and I do wonder if it's because the word Duvan appears in his form. He's got a chance, but I don't think he's necessarily a huge price at the moment. And Arthur's Oak, the top weight, is tough and consistent. He's won 3 of his 4 this year, but that's a huge weight for a horse to be carrying, especially with some half-decent types in there. It's a really, really tough conclusion to the festival, as always. But from a 1, 2, 3, I'm actually going to put in there Rock the World from the St. James. And I can't toss up between Savello and Next Sensation. I'm actually going to put in Next Sensation purely because he's a previous winner of the race. Well, that's it for day 4. That's it for the festival. Fingers crossed. You know, we're 2 days down at this point. Day 3 starts in an hour and a half. Fingers crossed we get some on day 3 and day 4. As always, thanks for your comments. Please keep posting them. Yeah, and I'll see you guys soon. Hope you've had a good festival. And yeah, fingers crossed we're in the winners the last 2 days. Cheers.